The starship Vialora drifted quietly at the edge of the Velis expanse, a cold, empty region of space known for silence. It was an alien exploration vessel from the Thalran Union, crewed by over 200 explorers, scientists, and military officers. For months, they had scanned the dark, expecting nothing. The Velis expanse had always been empty. Then the signal came. It was faint at first, almost buried under cosmic noise. A repeating pattern of pulses. Not random, not natural, structured, rhythmic. The kind of sound that said someone is out there. Captain Sareth leaned forward in his command chair. His dark eyes narrowed as the signal grew stronger. "Is this a trick?" he asked quietly. "Negative, Captain," replied the sensor officer. "The frequency is stable. It's repeating every 27 seconds. Exact intervals. No known species used that format. It didn't match any beacon, distress call, or diplomatic code. A heavy silence filled the bridge. The crew exchanged nervous looks. This part of space had been considered dead for centuries. No empire claimed it. No routes passed through it. There were no colonies, no stations, no signs of life, and yet the signal pulsed. Over and over. "Origin?" Captain Sareth asked. The officer brought up the star map. A faint red marker appeared. "Here, Captain. 20 light minutes away. Near the gravity well of an old white dwarf star." The captain made his decision. "Set a course." "Slow approach. I want all sensors at maximum." The engines hummed as Velora turned toward the unknown. The stars shifted slowly in the viewports. As they closed the distance, the signal grew louder, clearer. It wasn't just pulses now. It was a code, simple, repeating, but not in any alien language. "It's structured in base 10, whispered the science officer. "Whoever sent this counts the way we do. That was impossible. No species in known space used base 10. The bridge lights dimmed as the ship entered stealth observation mode. Scanners swept the void ahead. At first, nothing appeared, just debris, ancient rocks, and cold light from the dying star. Then the anomaly appeared on their sensors. It was massive, over 4 kilometers long, metallic, stationary but not dead. Its energy signature was like nothing they had seen before. The ship's scanners began to glitch, showing impossible readings. "Gravitational field fluctuating," the sensor officer said, panic in her voice. "It's bending space around itself. But there's no active warp drive. This shouldn't happen." Communication started to crackle. Voices broke up. Systems flickered. It was as if the object was swallowing their signals. "Visual contact," a junior officer called out. The main screen lit up. At first it looked like a shadow. Then as the light from the star fell across it, the shape emerged, a colossal vessel, sharp-edged, white and black, unlike any alien ship. Its surface was covered in geometric lines, massive panels, and what looked like weapon ports, but far more advanced than anything they had ever seen. No lights, no movement, just silence. The crew stared, frozen. The alien exploration fleet had encountered derelicts before, ancient ships, broken stations, but this felt different. The ship wasn't dead. It was watching. "Is it transmitting anything?" Captain Sareth asked. "Negative, passive. It's just..." "There. Life signs?" The sensors blinked uncertainly. "Unknown. The readings are masked. I can't get through its hull. It's like scanning a star." The captain's claws tapped against the armrest. Every instinct told him to leave, but curiosity burned brighter. No one in the Union had ever seen such a ship. It could be technology older than their empire. It could be a treasure, or a threat. "Launch probes," he ordered. "I want closer readings." Small drones shot out from the Velora, their lights blinking as they moved toward the silent giant. The crew watched as the probes approached, and then stopped transmitting one by one. "They're gone," whispered the communications officer. "All telemetry lost." It's like they hit a wall. The bridge grew cold. The crew could feel it, the sense that they had stepped into something far larger than themselves. "Should we retreat?" Someone whispered. Captain Sareth didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the strange vessel. Then the signal changed. The rhythmic pattern that had guided them here shifted into a new code. Faster, sharper, like a heartbeat accelerating. The science officer's hands shook as he decoded it. It's counting down. Counting down to what? Sareth asked. Before anyone could answer, the lights on the alien ship flickered once. A soft, low vibration filled the void, felt through the hull like a giant heartbeat. "Energy surge!" shouted sensors. Massive power build-up inside the object. "Raise shields!" the captain yelled, but the warship didn't fire. It simply moved, slowly, silently. The enormous vessel rotated toward the Vylora. There was no engine flare, no thrusters, just a shift. Like gravity itself was bending to its will. The ship's massive front came into view, revealing a black glass dome that stretched across its prow, like the eye of a beast. All systems on Vylora flickered. Alarm screamed. Communications died. For the first time in generations, the Thalaran Union's explorers felt something ancient, fear. The captain's voice was barely a whisper. "What have we found?" The screen showed the silent, impossible ship turning its gaze toward them, and then the signal stopped. The bridge of the Vylora was silent. Every officer stared at the giant unknown vessel ahead. It had turned toward them like a living creature, but it still hadn't spoken. No signal, no warning, only quiet power. Captain Sareth forced his voice to stay calm. "Open a wideband channel. Try every frequency. I want to know if it understands us." "Yes, Captain," replied the communication officer. Her fingers moved across the glowing panel. A deep hum filled the ship as their message went out. A standard greeting repeated in multiple galactic trade languages. The response came in the form of nothing. No signal, no echo. Just the quiet void between the two ships. Then something strange happened. Their own message returned to them, perfectly mirrored, on the exact same frequency, as if the unknown vessel had recorded it and played it back. The crew froze. It wasn't random. It wasn't a glitch. The ship had heard them. "It's mimicking us," whispered the communications officer. "Or testing," the captain replied softly. The science officer leaned forward. "Captain, I'm detecting faint emissions. Low-level power signatures running through the hull. It's waking up." The captain's throat felt dry. "All stations, defense posture. No one fires without my direct order." Around the ship, shields flickered to life. Weapon systems warmed up in silent readiness. The alien vessel floated only a few thousand kilometers away, close enough that its size filled every screen. Its surface bristled with sharp angles and smooth armor plates that reflected the distant starlight like the hide of some great metal beast. To the crew of the Vylora, this was not first contact with a friendly explorer. This felt like standing in front of something ancient, intelligent and dangerous. "Captain," the sensor officer said suddenly. "Multiple small objects launching from the target. Speed increasing." The screen zoomed in. Dozens of tiny black drones separated from the warship, spreading out like a silent swarm. They moved with eerie precision. No exhaust, no visible thrusters, just straight lines of motion. "They're coming toward us," said the weapons officer, his hands trembling over the controls. "Hold your fire," Sareth ordered. If they wanted to attack, we'd already be gone. The drones stopped a short distance from the Vylora. Then one by one they began to circle the ship, scanning it with invisible beams. The hull shivered as the scans passed through. "Controls flickered. It's mapping us," the science officer said. "Every deck, every system. I've never seen scanning this fast. It's like they can read the entire ship at once." "Jam them," the captain ordered. The jamming field activated, but the drones didn't even pause. The field collapsed in seconds. "They broke through," the officer cried. Before anyone could react, the main view screen flashed. A message appeared, not in their language, but in a strange set of symbols and numbers. Then slowly it shifted. "Letters formed, Captain," whispered the communications officer. "It's translating." The final text appeared in the center of the screen. It was in a language no alien had ever heard, but the translator gave its closest match. "Identify yourselves." The bridge went silent. Did it just speak? The sensor officer said, her voice barely above a breath. "Yes," Captain Sareth replied slowly. "And it used a direct command." Sareth straightened in his chair. "Reply in trade standard. Identify us as Thalran explorers. Say we come in peace, the message was sent. A moment later, the warship replied again. Your presence is not authorized. The words were cold and precise. No emotion, not authorized? Muttered the science officer. What does that even mean? This sector is unclaimed. The captain's instincts screamed danger. Back us off, slowly, thrusters only. The Valora began to drift away, engines humming softly. But then something terrifying happened. Their navigation system failed. Captain, shouted helm control. Our controls are locked. The ship is holding us in place. On the screen, the human warship began to move. Its vast frame slid closer without sound, without light, like a predator drifting through deep water. The closer it came, the more their systems went dark. Lights dimmed. Consoles shut down. Even the backup systems began to flicker. They're disabling us, said the science officer, panic rising. They're shutting everything down remotely. Emergency power. Nothing. The captain clenched his fists. Open a direct channel. Scream if you have to. The communications officer activated the emergency line. This is the Thalran Union exploratory vessel Valora. We mean no harm. Please respond. For several long seconds there was only static. Then a sound emerged, a deep, steady hum that filled every speaker. It wasn't words. It was like standing beneath a giant engine. And then, in clear, precise language, a voice spoke. A human voice. This region is under Terran observation. Identify your purpose or leave. Terran, whispered the science officer. What species is that? No records, replied another. The captain's heartbeat quickened. Tell them who we are. Tell them we're explorers. The message was sent. The warship paused. Its drones reformed into a tight formation and zipped back into hidden ports along its hull. Lights along its edges glowed faintly for the first time. They're scanning deeper, the sensor officer said, eyes wide. They're reading our crew biometrics, our history files, everything. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the systems on Valora came back online. Lights flared. Engines responded. They released us, said helm control, stunned, but the warship didn't leave. It simply held position, silent, massive, unmoving, watching. Captain, the science officer whispered, what are they? Sareth stared at the vessel, feeling the weight of something much larger than his mission. This was no lost civilization. This was no ancient derelict. This was someone's front line. Send everything we have back to the High Council, he ordered. All data, all recordings. The galaxy needs to see this. The communication systems began transmitting. The warship made no move to stop them. It simply watched, its black dome reflecting the stars like a cold eye. As the signal spread through alien space, every government, fleet, and council that received it saw the same thing, their first clear image of a human warship. And across the stars, fear began to grow. Across the alien galaxy, the first images of the strange warship spread like wildfire. Command centers, councils, and military fleets all stared at the footage with the same reaction, disbelief and unease. The Thalran Union's exploration ship, Valora, remained locked in silent orbit near the massive unknown vessel. On their bridge, tension grew by the second. Every officer felt as if they were sitting in front of something alive, something that had simply chosen not to strike. Captain Sareth's voice was calm, but his hands were tight on the armrests. Status. Shields stable. Engines operational again, reported helm control. Any transmissions? None. The vessel remains passive, but... The communications officer hesitated. Long-range scans show energy building inside its hull. Slowly, but constantly, the captain's eyes narrowed. How much energy? The officer looked pale. More than a battle station, sir. Maybe more than a fleet. I've never seen readings like this. On the screen, the human warship floated against the darkness like a mountain. No thrusters, no motion, but sensors showed thousands of moving components beneath its armor. It was as if the ship had been asleep, and now it was waking up. Launch another probe, Sareth ordered. I want closer readings before this thing decides to notice us again. A small drone left the Valora, heading toward the warship. At first everything was quiet. Then halfway there, the drone's signal cut out. Just like before, but this time the warship reacted. A wave of light rolled across its hull, soft. White-blue lines tracing its structure like veins glowing under skin. The ship's massive dome turned toward the Vailora again. "Energy spike," shouted the sensor officer. "Something's happening inside the core." The ship's hull shifted. Large armored panels slid aside, revealing deep glowing chambers, weapon ports, engine structures, sensor arrays. Systems that had been hidden suddenly came online in perfect sequence, like a giant machine coming alive after centuries of silence. The crew watched in stunned silence. It wasn't chaotic. It was precise. Every panel moved with mechanical grace. "This is impossible," whispered the science officer. "Their reaction time, their power control. It's like the ship is one single organism." "Do not provoke it," Sareth warned. "No weapons lock. No sudden moves." The bridge lights dimmed slightly as the alien vessel's scanners detected they were being scanned back. Hard. "It's reading everything," the science officer said. "Not just our ship. It's scanning the planetary system, the star, the surrounding space. As if it's setting up a perimeter." A cold realization passed over the captain. "They're not just reacting to us. They're taking control of this entire region." Suddenly, one of the alien escort ships, positioned a few kilometers away, panicked. Its commander misread the warship's awakening as a threat. The escort launched a warning plasma bolt, streaking toward the massive vessel. On the Vailora, alarms blared. "Who fired that shot?" Sareth roared. The plasma blast hit the side of the human warship and vanished. No explosion. No shield flash. It was as if the energy was absorbed into its armor. "What?" the weapons officer whispered. "What kind of shielding is that?" Before anyone could recover, the warship responded, not with a counterattack, but with something far more terrifying. Every ship in the Thalran escort group suddenly lost power. Shields dropped. Engines died. Even lights went out. One by one, alien vessels drifted helplessly in space. Caught in a silent, invisible field, they shut down the entire fleet, shouted the engineer. No signals, no overrides, they bypassed everything. The warship's hull glowed brighter. A circular structure on its underside began to spin slowly, releasing thin beams of white light that spread across space like a web. Every alien console filled with interference. "They've jammed our entire network," communications reported. "We can't send messages. Even our emergency channels are dead." "Captain," said the science officer slowly, "we are completely at their mercy." Then through the static, her voice returned, deep, calm, human. "You have entered a restricted zone. Any hostile action will be neutralized. Identify all fleets." The message was short, but its tone was colder than before. This time there was no curiosity, only authority. "They know someone fired," Sareth murmured. "They're warning us." The bridge was filled with low whispers. Some officers wanted to flee, others wanted to fight. But the captain knew neither was possible. Signal the escorts manually. Order them to power down weapons. Total compliance while they tried to regain some control. The massive warship extended a structure from its side, a long black arm-like array, lined with glowing rings. "It's targeting something," said sensors. The array locked onto the escort ship that had fired earlier. For a few seconds nothing happened. Then with a flash of white light, the escort ship's entire weapon system detached from the hull, sliced cleanly and gently, drifting away like a broken toy. "No explosion," whispered the weapons officer. "They disabled it. Surgically." The captain felt chills. "They didn't destroy. They disarmed." The voice returned once more. "This is your only warning. Next action will be decisive." And then silence again. The alien bridge was frozen. Everyone stared at the screen, where the massive human warship now floated fully awake, glowing softly against the darkness. "This isn't just a ship," the science officer said slowly. "It's a fortress." Sareth stared at it, his mind racing. Who were these Terrans? How long had this vessel been here? And why were they guarding this forgotten edge of space, like a gatekeeper watching a door? Far away, in alien capitals across the galaxy, leaders stared at the same live feed. The first real display of human power was now public. Entire fleets had been shut down without a single shot fired. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy felt small. Across the stars, news of the encounter spread like a firestorm. Every major alien news channel repeated the same shocking footage, the first sighting of the Terran warship. On enormous holoscreens in capital cities, crowds gathered to watch the silent angular vessel drifting in the void. Military commanders paused their exercises. Traders abandoned markets to stare, scholars whispered. Some prayed. For generations, the Velis expanse had been seen as a quiet, useless corner of the galaxy. Now it had become the center of fear and fascination. In the Thalran capital, the Grand Council assembled in emergency session. Holograms of the warship floated in the middle of the chamber. Scientists, admirals, and diplomats argued over each other. "This is not a ghost ship," one scientist said. "The energy readings are too organized, too deliberate. It's active. It disabled an entire fleet without firing," said Admiral Rin, his voice hard. "If this Terran power has more than one of these ships, they could control entire sectors. But who are they?" asked a diplomat. "Why now? Why reveal themselves here?" No one had answers. Meanwhile, in other star systems, panic grew quietly. Smaller nations feared they were standing on the edge of a new age or a new war. Larger empires sent their fastest couriers toward the Velis expanse. Some came with diplomats, others with warships. On the Valora, Captain Sareth watched the chaos unfold through intercepted broadcasts. Their ship was no longer just an explorer. It had become the eye of the storm. The human warship remained in position, silent but fully awakened, its glowing lines and open weapon bays a constant reminder of its power. The alien fleet had powered down completely, following the warning. No one dared make another move. "Captain," said the communications officer, "the Council is ordering us to stay in place. Reinforcements are on the way." Sareth frowned. "How many?" 20 capital ships plus diplomatic vessels. "They want to establish communication with the Terrans." The captain stared at the human vessel. "Communication? They don't even respond unless they want to. If those reinforcements make the wrong move..." He didn't finish. Everyone on the bridge understood. Hours later, the first wave of reinforcements arrived. 20 Thalran battleships emerged from warp on the edge of the system, their shields raised, weapons hot. They formed a massive arc around the human warship, careful not to cross its invisible boundary. To the warship, it must have looked like insects forming a ring around a sleeping predator. "Fleet Command hails us," said the communications officer. "They want us to act as the observing vessel. Relay their messages," Sareth sighed. "Understood. Patch them through." A stern admiral appeared on the main screen. "Captain Sareth, your report has shaken the Council. You will hold position and observe. Our fleet will attempt formal first contact. Any sudden action by the Terrans, you will withdraw and report." "Yes, Admiral," Sareth replied. He didn't believe this would be a peaceful meeting. On the flagship, the Admiral's diplomatic vessel opened a broad-spectrum channel. "Unknown Terran vessel. This is the Thalran Union fleet. We wish to open communication." "We come in peace." The response was silence. "Repeat the message," the Admiral ordered. Again silence. Then the warship moved. Not a fast maneuver, but a single precise shift, rotating slightly toward the center of the fleet formation. Its lights pulsed once, like the blink of an eye. Immediately, every alien sensor lit up with warnings. "They're scanning the entire fleet," reported sensors. Deep scans. Not just ships, but crew life signatures, command structures, encrypted frequencies, everything. Fleet Command panicked. A few captains began adjusting their positions nervously. "Hold formation," the Admiral barked. The warship's dome flickered faintly. A new transmission came through, clear and cold. "You are not authorized to deploy military assets in this sector. Withdraw, or be disarmed." The words echoed through every command deck. The translator systems didn't struggle this time. The Terran voice was perfectly clear. The Admiral clenched his jaw. This is Thalrin territory. You cannot order us." Before he could finish, every weapon system in the fleet shut down. Lights went out. Command interfaces froze. Even emergency backups died. Ships drifted helplessly, just like Sareth's escorts had earlier. The Terran warship didn't fire a single shot. It simply looked at them and they fell silent. This is power beyond anything in our records," whispered one of the younger officers on the Vailora. "They control space itself." Back on the council, panic turned to argument. "We must withdraw our fleet before we provoke them further," said one faction. "No," growled Admiral Rin. "This is an opportunity. If we can negotiate, we might learn their technology. If we can't, we must prepare." "Prepare for what?" "A war we cannot win," shouted a diplomat. Across the galaxy, similar conversations happened. Some empires saw the Terrans as a threat. Others saw them as gods. A few whispered that perhaps they had always been there, watching from the shadows, waiting for the right moment. On the Vailora, Captain Sareth stood alone in the observation deck. The Terran warship filled the window like a wall. Its silent, controlled presence pressed on his chest like weight. "They've done nothing." "And still the galaxy trembles," he whispered. Behind him, the science officer approached. "Captain, we've analyzed their signal patterns again. It's not random. It's layered. Beneath the commands, there's something else." "What do you mean?" Sareth asked. "It's like a heartbeat, constant, ancient. This ship is not new, Captain. It's old, very old, but it's maintained perfectly." Sareth's eyes narrowed. "Then this isn't their only ship." The science officer nodded slowly. "No, I think this is a watcher, a guardian." The captain stared into the stars, realizing something terrifying. If this was only a single Terran vessel somewhere out there, more might be waiting, and the galaxy had just woken one of them up. For days, the alien fleets surrounded the massive Terran warship, but could do nothing. Their weapons were useless. Their scanners only revealed more questions. The warship didn't speak again. It simply watched, as if waiting for the galaxy to catch up. Across alien capitals, chaos slowly turned to calculation. The first shock was fading. Now leaders wanted answers. Who were these Terrans? Why had no one ever seen them before? How could their technology be so far beyond anything known? The Thalrin Grand Council sent message after message into the void. No reply. Other empires tried too. Still nothing. Then on the fifth day, a strange pulse was detected from the Terran warship. It wasn't an attack. It was a signal, beamed toward a nearby relay station, a neutral communication platform that had been abandoned decades ago. "They've chosen the location," said the science officer on the Vailora, eyes wide. "They want to talk on their terms," Captain Sareth nodded. "They control everything here. If they want us to meet at that station, we follow their rules." The Thalrin Council quickly agreed. A delegation ship was prepared, diplomats, military observers, linguists, and Sareth himself. As their shuttle approached the ancient station, they noticed something strange. The station was active again. Lights glowed. Power flowed through systems that had been dead for years. "They reactivated it remotely," whispered a technician. "They're using it as a neutral ground." The delegation docked slowly. Inside, the halls were clean and powered, but empty. No guards, no hosts. Just silence and a single path marked by softly glowing floor lights. It led them to the central chamber. There, in the middle of the room, a hologram flickered to life. It wasn't alien. It was human. The figure that appeared was tall, wearing a dark uniform with a simple insignia on the chest, a circle with a single vertical line through it. His face was calm, unreadable. His eyes studied the delegation, the way a teacher might look at noisy children. "Delegation of the Thalrin Union," the hologram said in clear, perfect speech. "You have entered a Terran observation zone. State your purpose." The diplomats exchanged nervous looks. The lead ambassador stepped forward. We came in peace. Your presence is unknown to our galaxy. We seek to understand who you are and why your vessel is here." The human inclined his head slightly. "Your galaxy," he repeated. "You believe this region belongs to you?" His tone was not hostile. It was almost amused. but controlled, like a chess player already thinking 10 moves ahead. This region has been monitored by Terran Command for centuries, the hologram continued. Unauthorized military activity is not permitted. Your fleets have violated the perimeter, the admiral in the group bristled. This is unclaimed space. You cannot simply... The hologram's gaze sharpened. We can. The admiral fell silent. The hologram continued. You ask who we are. We are humanity, descendants of Terra. We withdrew from galactic space more than 400 standard cycles ago. While your empires expanded and warred, we observed from a distance. We prepared. The chamber grew still. 400 cycles. Humanity had been gone longer than many empires had existed. Why? The ambassador asked. Why disappear? Why return now? The hologram's expression didn't change. We never disappeared. We simply stopped speaking. We found it. Inefficient. The delegation felt a chill. The human's words were calm, but there was something behind them, quiet confidence. This was a civilization that had watched the galaxy grow noisy and chaotic, and had chosen silence. You built fleets, the ambassador said slowly. You built weapons, the human nodded. We built vanguard units. You encountered one. Its mission is simple: observe, deter, and ensure that galactic conflicts do not threaten our domains. Domains? Sareth asked carefully. Are you saying you control other regions? The hologram didn't answer directly. You are not authorized to know the full extent of Terran deployments. The delegation exchanged uneasy glances. If this single warship could paralyze fleets, what could a Terran network of these ships do? Suddenly the hologram changed. A star map appeared, not of the galaxy as the aliens knew it, but overlaid with Terran sectors. Faint lines marked regions deep in unexplored space. The delegation's jaws tightened. There were dozens of marked zones. These are not claims, the human said. They are warnings. Terran fleets do not seek conquest, but we will not tolerate interference. The ambassador swallowed. And if we respect these borders? Then we will respect yours, the hologram replied. Trade is possible. Dialogue is possible, but only with those who listen. And if someone refuses to listen, the admiral asked, the human's voice turned quiet, then they will no longer be able to speak. No threat was shouted. No weapons were shown. But the meaning was clear. After the meeting, the delegation returned to their ship in silence. Captain Sareth watched the Terran warship through the viewport as their shuttle left the station. It floated calmly, engines cold, like a titan at rest. What do you think? The science officer asked softly. Sareth exhaled slowly. They're not here to start a war. But if someone does, they'll end it. On the Vailora's bridge, messages from the council poured in. Every empire in the region wanted the recording of the meeting. Some saw hope. Maybe Terrans would trade advanced technology. Others saw danger. A hidden empire that could cripple fleets without blinking. But the one thing no one could deny was this. Humanity was real. Humanity was back. And they had never been weak. Back in the council chambers, one elderly scholar whispered what many feared to say aloud. They watched us like children playing with fire. And now they've spoken. The galaxy will never be the same again. The galaxy was no longer the same. In the days following the Terran transmission, governments argued, fleets moved nervously, and old rivalries flared. Some alien leaders called for caution. Others whispered about opportunity. Terran technology could make empires rise overnight. But a few, proud and powerful, saw the Terran presence as a challenge, and challenges, in their minds, demanded a response. In a distant sector, a coalition of 3 aggressive powers gathered their fleets. They believed the Terrans were bluffing. One warship couldn't control an entire region. If they struck fast, they thought, they could destroy the vanguard ship, then claim its technology for themselves. They called their mission Operation Torchfall. They didn't know they were about to light their own funeral pyre. On the Vailora, Captain Sareth read the reports with growing unease. They're really going through with it, he muttered. Yes, the communications officer replied quietly. 3 fleets. Over 100 ships. They're heading straight for the observation zone. Fools, Sareth said. He looked through the viewport at the silent Terran warship. It hadn't moved since the diplomatic meeting. Its engines were dark, its hull still, but everyone who had been near it understood the truth. It didn't need to move fast. The galaxy moved around it. "Captain," said the science officer, "if they attack, we should pull back." "I don't want to be near whatever happens next," he nodded. "Prepare for retreat distance, but keep recording everything." Hours later, the coalition fleets arrived. Massive battle formations filled the system. Their ships were bristling with weapons, shields flaring bright. Commanders broadcast a final message, which every ship in the region received, to the unknown Terran vessel. "You have violated neutral space. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." The Terran warship did not respond. "Final warning," the coalition commander said, his voice rising with false confidence. "Withdraw. Silence. Open fire." The stars lit up. Dozens of heavy plasma blasts, kinetic warheads, and energy beams rushed toward the Terran ship in perfect formation. It was a storm of power, enough to level moons. For a heartbeat, everyone thought the warship would vanish under the barrage. Then everything stopped. The projectiles froze mid-space, hanging like insects in amber. The energy beams bent, curving away from the warship's hull, as if space itself had changed shape. Plasma bolts shattered against an invisible wall and spread like harmless light. "Impossible," whispered one of Sareth's officers. "They stopped time?" "No," the science officer said, staring wide-eyed. "They stopped the battlefield." The Terran warship finally moved, not with speed. With precision, panels on its sides opened and long black spines extended like the arms of a silent machine. Beams of pure white light flashed, not as weapons, but as commands. One by one, coalition ships lost power. Entire cruisers went dark. Dreadnoughts tumbled helplessly, their artificial gravity failing. Weapons detached from their hulls and drifted away like toys. On the coalition flagships, crews panicked. Systems rebooted and failed again. Engines refused to respond. Even escape pods locked in place, controlled by something far greater. "This is on total control," whispered Captain Sareth. "They're not fighting. They're deciding." Then a Terran voice filled every channel, calm, cold, final. "You were warned. This zone is under Terran protection. You brought war. We will end it." The coalition fleet struggled to regroup, but it was already over. A massive shockwave of light expanded from the Terran warship. It wasn't destructive. It was precise. When it passed through the enemy fleets, every weapon system was cut off, every engine disabled, every computer blank. The fleets became silent wrecks in perfect formation, floating like dead leaves on still water, and then, as if to make a point, the Terran warship reactivated their life support and stabilizers, keeping every alien alive, but powerless. They hadn't destroyed them. They had simply removed their ability to resist. In alien capitals across the galaxy, the battle feed played in real time. Billions watched fleets crumble without a single Terran shot. Admirals who had mocked the humans fell silent. Leaders who had called them a bluff looked pale. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy understood something clearly. The Terrans were not playing politics. They were drawing a line. A final transmission went out from the Terran warship. It was broadcast in every major language, on every public frequency. There was no anger, no boasting, just a single clear message. We are humanity. We seek no conquest. But understand this, our silence is not weakness. Cross this line again, and the consequences will be final. The transmission ended. Then, for the first time since its arrival, the Terran warship activated its engines. Blue-white light flared along its spine. Space around it warped like water rippling. The enormous ship slowly rotated away from the fleets, aligned with deep space, and jumped to warp without leaving a trace. It was gone. On the Vylora, the bridge was silent. No one cheered, no one spoke. They simply stared at the empty space where the Terran warship had been. "They didn't destroy them," said the science officer softly. "They could have, but they didn't." Sareth nodded slowly. "They didn't need to. The whole galaxy just saw what happens when someone crosses their line." He turned to his crew. "Transmit everything to the Council. This will be studied for centuries. In the following weeks, galactic politics shifted like tectonic plates. Borders near Terran zones were redrawn without a single Terran demand. Fleets pulled back. Empires signed treaties, not with the Terrans, but with each other, afraid to provoke the silent power lurking in the dark, and far away, in unexplored sectors, other signals began to pulse, rhythmic, calm, familiar. Other vanguard ships were waking up. The galaxy finally understood. Humanity had never vanished. They had been watching, waiting, preparing, and now they had drawn their line.